this wonderful Thursday afternoon. Two great guests will join me on the program today. First up will be Rick Peterson, TopSports.news. He'll join us for the local sports spotlight, bottom of this 3 o'clock hour. We'll preview the weekend ahead in high school sports, including our 580 Preps high school football game of the week, which is tomorrow night over on our sister station, Country 106.9. Topeka West and Shawnee Heights in a Capital City rivalry, United Kansas Conference rivalry. We'll have that game for you here on Country 106.9, our sister station. We'll preview those games. We'll preview Washburn football going on the road to Colorado School of Mines on Saturday. You can hear that one on Country 106.9 as well. Rick Peterson and the local sports spotlight coming up later on in the show. And also at 5:15 today, Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Chiefs. It's a Thursday during the NFL season. Mitch will join us before we hit the door today. And we'll have Mitch live with us, and we'll get his thoughts on Brazil, on the Chiefs' Week 1 loss to the Chargers, and looking ahead to the big Super Bowl rematch against the Philadelphia Eagles this coming Sunday afternoon, a 3:25 kickoff at Arrowhead Stadium. Pre-game coverage starting at 2 o'clock on our other sister station, one of our other sister stations. We have 4 in the building. Our sister station, the big 94.5 Country, will have Chiefs football for you on Sunday. So, Rick Peterson, bottom of the 3 o'clock hour. Mitch Holthus, 5:15. Those are our guests for today's program. We've also got plenty to get to from the world of sports. The Royals' heart still beats, however faintly. They pulled out a 4-3 win over the Guardians last night. And if they do indeed fall short of the playoffs, which again is the much likelier outcome with 16 games to play, it will not be because this is not a mentally tough baseball team, and it will not be because they did not exhaust all their options in trying to win enough games to get back to the playoffs for a second straight year. We'll talk about what we saw from the Royals last night and continued encouraging developments for the right fielder and maybe the cleanup hitter of the future for the Royals last night. We're going to talk some Chiefs football. Xavier Worthy was practicing today. I can't believe it either. Now, does that definitely mean he's going to play on Sunday against the Eagles? That I cannot tell you. But he was out there. He was practicing. He was wearing a brace and a wrap that's about as big around as he is. But he was out there. So we trend even closer to the best case scenario for Xavier Worthy's injuries. The fact that he can practice at all at this stage of his recovery from that dislocated shoulder he suffered last Friday in the opener is extremely encouraging. We'll discuss that, what it could mean if he is able to go, or if this is all maybe a bit of eye candy, a bit of a mind game being played by the Chiefs going into the week, just to give the Eagles something else to think about. I also want to get back to a discussion that we've had throughout the week, and we had it with Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com on yesterday's edition of the show. If you did not hear Fitz, if you're a K-State fan, you didn't hear our conversation with Fitz yesterday, go back and check that out. That was an hour 2 of yesterday's show, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. Catch it on the podcast, 580WIBW.com, 580 Sports Talk on Spotify, the archive video on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. Go hear what Fitz had to say about this football team. Not if you want to be uplifted or encouraged, just some real talk from somebody who knows. And Fitz knows the principles and knows what's going on with Kansas State football, and did not exactly ring positive in our conversation yesterday. It is worth hearing in full. But to stem off of something he said, I have 2 pertinent questions about Kansas State quarterback Avery Johnson. And really, they aren't so much about Avery Johnson as they are about the priorities of the Kansas State football program and the coaching staff as they pertain to Avery Johnson. So we're going to get into that a little bit later on in the show. We'll do What Is Wrong With You. We'll have a brief headline segment before we get into Mitch. Again, with only 2.5 hours with you today. 5 o'clock hour will be short. We'll be off at 5:30. Want to hear from you throughout today's show. Get at us on the text line. 785-272-9429. That is 9429. That is the text line number. You can also jump on the YouTube stream and participate in the live chat. We have a live chat that operates during the live broadcast of our show on our YouTube channel. The name of the YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. If you're signed in to YouTube or Google or whatever it is you got to be signed into, I think it's Google, you have the ability to post in the comments. You can post under an alias. You can post under your given name. It doesn't really matter. We just invite your participation however you are comfortable participating. Stop in, say hi, ask questions, respond to what we're talking about on the show today. Interact with your fellow listeners. Just come by to say hello sometimes. We appreciate everybody who hops into that live chat over on our 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. Mark H. and Christopher are in. I guess we had some audio difficulties there early in the stream, but I think we're back to working now if you want to catch the YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. And go subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already. We announced on yesterday's show, 6 days from today, next Wednesday, the promised and highly anticipated arm wrestling match between myself and Brendan Dworzinski, who is off today. Spencer Dupuis also off today. It's just me. You're stuck with me. But next Wednesday, that will not be the case. The gang will all be in the studio, and I am going to arm wrestle Brendan Dworzinski on Wednesday's edition of 580 Sports Talk. That's happening. We've set the date. It's in stone. Brendan and I each have 6 days to get some last-minute bicep curls in, some deadlifts perhaps, maybe a little clean and jerk, get those biceps ready to rock for the promised and anticipated arm wrestling match. Also, we have set our stretch goal for 900 subscribers. When we get to 900, and we started today at 8:15, when we get to 900 subscribers, 580 Sports Talk karaoke. Listeners will submit songs. All three of us will draw a song and sing it on the show. We will debase ourselves through our mediocre, amateur karaoke singing voices once you get us to 900 subscribers. So go subscribe if you haven't already and you want to see us sing. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the YouTube channel. There are 16 games remaining in the Major League Baseball season, and the outlook isn't brilliant for the Kansas City Nine. The playoff odds did increase for the Royals after their 4-3 win over the Guardians last night, but only by a fragment. Baseball Reference has the Royals playoff odds at 3.5%. Fangraphs playoff odds are at 3.3%. And remember, they've been the more optimistic of the two the last few days. They figure their playoff odds differently, both websites. The tragic number, or the elimination number if you prefer to not be so overwrought, but the tragic number for the Royals is 13. Any combination of Royals losses and Mariners wins from this day on the calendar that equals 13 will eliminate the Royals from playoff contention. Which means the Royals better do a lot of winning and Seattle better do their share of losing. So it doesn't look good. And it didn't look good going into last night. And we talked about how bad the Royals offense had been, how impotent they looked in getting shut out the night before, how tenuous things felt with a bullpen day on deck for the Royals. But how many times this year has that team won a game where it felt going in like they had no chance? I think back to that game in May in San Francisco where they had the bullpen game against Logan Webb, one of the best starters in the National League, and they just tattooed Webb. Salvi hit a home run. They jumped all over Webb. They had him out of the game in the fourth inning, and they ended up winning that game. There have been quite a few of those this season for this Royals team that they have dragged out of the mud, that they have gone in with a perceived win probability that was minuscule, and they have found a way to win the game. And last night is of a piece with those games that we have seen throughout the season. Royals had an early lead, coughed it up, got it back in the late stages with some help from some iffy Cleveland defense, a bad throw to the plate by Stephen Kwan, and a worse throw from the catcher into center field, allowing Nick Lofton, who tied the game with his RBI single, to advance all the way to third base. He would score easily on Michael Garcia's RBI double a batter later, and that was a wrap. No further scoring from there, and the Royals lock it down with a 4-3 win. The last three guys to pitch for the Royals, 5 innings, no runs, 2 hits, only 1 walk. Luwinder Avila, first major league win. I really like his arm. He's a guy, if you are a daily listener, maybe you remember me talking about him in March, saying, I think this is a guy who's going to impact the Royals this year. I would have bet back in the spring, if you told me who will pitch more effectively as a rookie for the Royals between Noah Cameron and Luwinder Avila, I might have gone with Avila, to be completely honest with you. Obviously, I would have been wrong because Noah Cameron's been really good. That's been a pleasant surprise. I don't think even the Royals in their wildest dreams would have anticipated that Noah Cameron would be carrying an ERA south of 3 with 140-odd innings into mid-September. But Avila's got a big arm. He dealt with some injuries this season. It'll be interesting to see if the Royals still see him as a starter or if maybe they're looking at him in a relief role long term. But he delivered 2 very important scoreless innings with the Royals trailing. And then Matt Quatraro went to Lucas Erceg in the 7th and rode him through the 8th. 2 clean innings for Erceg, needed just 26 pitches to retire 6 batters. Carlos Estevez, a 1-2-3 ninth for his 39th save of the year, which leads the American League. You cannot say that the Royals do not understand the gravity of their situation. You cannot say that the Royals do not understand the urgency that every game brings with it in their state. Last year was a criticism, frankly, of Matt Quatraro. And to be fair, it was a criticism that we levied against him in July and August, and a criticism that we levied against him when the Royals were in a playoff spot. Obviously, the stakes are very different, and I think they would bring the most aggressive mindset out of any manager, even the most passive, even the least urgent manager. But Matt Quatraro managed last night like that game was the only one that mattered. He wasn't thinking about, oh, well, I might not have my back-end guy. I might not have my most reliable setup man, Lucas Erceg, tomorrow. I better go to somebody else for the 8th. No, he pressed ahead with Erceg, who, even though he's stopped striking guys out this year for whatever reason, has still prevented runs as well as any reliever on his staff. And he got 2 quality innings out of him, setting the table for Estevez to work that clean 9th inning. And the Royals get this win, and I think that the most encouraging thing from the performance was who started the rally and how. In the 7th inning with 1 out, Jack Caglione at the plate against a left-handed reliever and a good one in Tim Herron. And in his first stint with the Royals, you probably would have seen Caglione have a real problem in that spot. You might have even seen Matt Quatraro pinch hit for Jack. But his at-bats, as I mentioned on yesterday's show, have been a lot better since he came back from the minor leagues. He worked an 8-pitch walk in that spot. And then Q went to Tyler Tolbert to pinch run. Tolbert stole second and scored on Lofton's single to left that created the error that allowed Lofton to make it all the way to third on the play. It was excellent base running all the way around, really aggressive and excellent base running on a play for a team that really has been haunted all year by lapses in base running and fundamentals on the base paths. But it was Caglione who started that rally by drawing a walk. And again, Cags is batting $150 this season, and he's 3 for 17 since he came back from AAA. Not hitting the baseball, not impacting the offense with hits, extra base hits, RBI, all the things that are going to come for him because he's too talented. He swings the bat too well. He hits the ball too hard for good things not to ultimately happen for Jack Caglione. He has been patient. The baseball gods are going to reward him on the other side of this. I firmly believe that. But the quality of his at-bats has gotten so much better. He was able to, A, stay out there, have the faith of the manager to face a tough lefty, and then to draw the walk and start that rally. And Matt Quatraro was quoted after the game. Ann Rogers had this in her newsletter today that goes out to subscribers to her work on MLB.com. Quatraro said, quote, he's controlled the zone much better. That was his goal going down there to AAA. was to understand himself a little bit better, understand what pitchers were trying to do to him, and not just try to swing his way out of situations or what he perceived to be struggles. It's an interesting thought, swinging your way out of a slump. You get a little uptight when you're not getting the results you want. And sometimes your thought is to just swing your way through it, swing your way to success. But sometimes you got to be a little bit more patient. And I think that the time on the injured list and the time back down at AAA really benefited Jack Caglione in that way. He also is quoted in Rodgers' newsletter today and it's about him and about his changes in approach since coming back, just talking about how much slower at-bats seem for him, that the game has slowed down a bit for him, which it's a weird thing to say about baseball, right? You think about, football players saying that, quarterbacks saying that, basketball players sometimes when they go up a level, saying that the game slows down for them the more they understand it. But that can be true of baseball as well. So I'm super encouraged, even though, again, the hits haven't fallen yet for Jack Caglione. His at-bats have been so good since he came back. And it's a little bit lower pressure, right? Like when he came up, it was, here comes Jack Caglione to save the Royals' flagging offense. Here comes the kid who's bopping the ball over the fence at AAA, and he's going to be the fix. And that's a lot to put on a young player, and the Royals tried and tried to avoid putting that on Caglione's shoulders until they couldn't anymore, until whatever they got from him was going to be better than what they were getting from the corner outfield spots before. They gave in and maybe paid a little bit of a price in that Caglione started really, really slowly. And instead of being patient, he tried to swing his way out of it, and the results got worse. But now that he's back, now that you're into September, and yes, these are higher pressure, higher leverage baseball games because a playoff spot is on the line, and there's no real leeway. Like, you have to win. But guys are going better now offensively than they were when Caglione was called up. And he gets to be a little bit more under the radar. He doesn't have to be the midseason call-up that's going to shake up the lineup. He can just go and play when his name's in the lineup. I think that helps him a ton. And I think that's going to help him next year. I think, again, there'll be time enough for postmortems, all that good stuff, when the Royals are eliminated, when their season does end. But Cags is going to be a big part of next year's team. It can't just be him that's an addition to the lineup. The Royals are going to have to do and be a little bit more aggressive when it comes to adding offense. They weren't aggressive enough this last offseason, and we see how that has cost them. But Cags has a role to play. And maybe he became a bit of a forgotten man in some circles with how mightily he struggled in his first taste of the big leagues. But his second taste is showing this is a guy who gets it, who understands what he has to do to improve. And long-term, I'm still buying Jack Caglione's stock. He's going to be the right fielder for the Royals on opening day 2026, and I think he's going to be there for a really long time. And the home runs, the batting average, the RBI, all those things are going to come. All those things come as a result of good approach and tools. And he's got the former now adding to the latter. Royals need another one tonight, I should say. They need to find a way to split that series against the Guardians. Again, 6:15 first pitch, pregame coverage at 5:30 tonight. Stephen Kolek to the bump for the Royals. He'll face Cleveland's Gavin Williams. Royals actually get to see a right-hander for a change. We'll take a quick break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, Xavier Worthy's practicing already? Medical miracle at One Arrowhead Drive. Plus, still this hour, I wanted to talk to Rick Peterson because I love talking to Pistol. And luckily for me, it was Thursday. So it's the day for the local sports spotlight with Rick Peterson at TopSports.news. And that's coming up in about 10 minutes or so as well. Hang with us. We're just getting started on this shortened Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk. 3:30 on 580 Sports Talk. Just getting warmed up on this Thursday. Again, we're off at 5:30 for Royals baseball, 6:15 first pitch in Cleveland. I'm trying to think. It's unbelievable if this is true, and I think it is. 15 games left after tonight, and this will be the last divisional matchup for the Royals this season. They'll be done with division games. Their most, important rivals and most important games for the division stand. I suppose the division, that's already been decided. But yeah, they're done with division games after tonight. This will be the final division game for the Royals against an American League Central opponent. They've got Philadelphia after this for 3, then Seattle and Toronto in the final homestand, and then they go out west for the Angels and the A's to wrap up the season. Just a strange quirk of scheduling. I think the Royals close next year with 6 at home against divisional teams. So, I know divisions are 5 teams, right? Somebody can't be playing a division game at the end of the year. It's just kind of how it works. But I don't know, just something else I don't really love. News from Chiefs camp today. Xavier Worthy was practicing, not in attendance, not chilling out on the sideline. He was going through some workouts. He had a big brace on his right shoulder, which was dislocated in that collision with Travis Kelce on Friday night in the loss to the Chargers. He was also wearing a wrap around the brace. I admire Xavier Worthy's toughness. He played in college. He played games in 2022 with a broken hand, which I think you can imagine as a wide receiver, that being a bit of a nuisance, having one of your tools broken. But he's out there. He's working out. So that meant Jalen Royals was the only Chief who didn't practice or wasn't seen practicing today. We don't yet have, at least not that I have seen, the new participation report for Thursday. At least has not gone up on Chiefs.com as of yet. So can't give the full accounting of it. We'll do that in the 5 o'clock hour. Surely it'll be up by then. It'll be part of headlines. But Xavier Worthy back at it today. And as much as I want to be excited about the short-term impact, as much as I want to be, oh my God, he's going to play on Sunday. He's going to play. He's going to run rings around the Philadelphia Eagles. I feel like I would feel better about a guy playing the week after dislocating his shoulder if he weren't built like a number 2 pencil, which Xavier Worthy is. Like, I don't need him taking unnecessary hits on a not really healed shoulder. I'd rather him have a clean bill of health before he's back on the field again, even if I admire the toughness and the desire. That being said, I don't think the Chiefs training staff would let him put a brace on if they felt like there was a risk even just going through workouts. So that must mean, at the bare minimum, that the dislocation was a fairly clean one, that putting Xavier Worthy back together again was a fairly benign process, and it would certainly feel like sooner rather than later for Worthy's return. Again, we talked yesterday, Nate Taylor of ESPN said his sources were saying they were hopeful for a week 4 return for Worthy. The fact that he's already practicing would maybe put week 3 back into play. I'm still not going to get excited about week 2. This to me feels more like window dressing, eye candy, whatever you want to call it. This feels like giving Nick Sirianni and Vic Fangio and that Eagles defense a little something to think about going into preparation for Sunday. But I do love a good mind game. And I do, even if I'm a little cynical about the immediate return of Xavier Worthy, I do acknowledge that it is wonderful news that it seems like the Chiefs are going to have their fastest wide receiver and their best non-suspended wide receiver back a whole lot sooner than later. That's a significant development for a Chiefs team that is having to answer some tough questions about who's the moneymaker on third down, who's going to be their downfield playmaker. Can they get to that explosiveness that they wanted to get to? Because the early returns without Worthy in week 1 were not great. At least they weren't great for the first half while they were trying to adjust to Worthy's absence. Again, we'll bring you the full participation report. I'm sure that'll be in the 5 o'clock hour. We'll bring that to you before we talk to Mitch Holthus. But maybe a medical miracle at One Arrowhead Drive. I'll be stunned, but a happy stunned if Xavier Worthy's out there on Sunday afternoon against Philadelphia. We'll take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. Come back with the great Rick Peterson for the local sports spotlight here on 580 WIBW. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by the great Rick Peterson of TopSports.news for the local sports spotlight. We do it every Thursday at this time. Rick covers the Shawnee County High School sports scene and the Washburn Ichabods for TopSports.news. An indispensable daily read, especially now with high school sports in full swing. And Pistol, that includes week 1 of the high school football season. You saw yourself a barn burner, 92 combined points in Shawnee Heights, Washburn Rural. I kind of figured that was the kind of game we might see between those two teams, and that's what was delivered, a 51-41 win for Rural, a shootout and one to remember for the opener.
Yeah, I thought there'd be points. I'm not sure I thought there'd be 92 points, but both offenses showed out. And you know, even it sounds a little crazy to say, you know, but even though they gave up 41 points, Washburn Rural came up with some big defensive plays, got picked off 3 passes, recovered a fumble. And then, but it went down to the wire and wasn't safe until Nate Selm picked off onside kick attempt and returned it for 6. So it was entertaining. I don't know how great aesthetically game it was. The coaches, I'm sure they found a lot to go over, but it was very entertaining.
We know about Aiden Scott, the future Washburn Ichabod, the standout quarterback from Shawnee Heights. He threw for over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns in the game. But Washburn Rural's got a returning starter quarterback too, John Hoytel. What did you make of his performance in leading Rural to victory?
I thought John played a very good game as a leader. They're going to run the ball more than a lot of teams because they got 2 really good backs in the Minikue and Baum. But when he did throw, he threw very well. 11 of 20, 201, I think is what I had him for. So he did a good job.
Rick Peterson at TopSports.news joining us for the local sports spotlight here on 580 Sports Talk. The other big game in the county, of course, the War on 24 takes a backseat to no rivalry, not just in Northeast Kansas, but in the state of Kansas. For the 3rd time in 4 years, the Bulldogs and the Eagles went to overtime. And this time, for the first time in 4 years, it was Rossville coming out on top with a 28-27 victory. They scored in all 3 phases of the game, blocked an extra point in overtime to help them win. It just goes to show you got to play complementary football, and Rossville's bunch did exactly that.
Yeah, and I think they're a team that any team in 1A is going to be worried about because they're just very solid, very well coached, and got great athletes. Like a lot of small schools, a lot of multi-sport athletes, like Jack Donovan, Cameron Miller, and I think they're going to be a team to be reckoned with.
Avery Johnson also outstanding in that game on defense, especially for the Bulldogs. Eagles got an impressive performance from their freshman quarterback, Kipton Kruger, who led the game-tying drive in the final 4.5 minutes, despite not knowing how much time was left on the clock until the PA announcer said it. You ever been to a game, Pistol, where the scoreboard just didn't work for the entire night?
No, not for the entire night. I've had some where it went out and everybody's cussing and yelling then. So I'm sure they're doing that when it's out for the whole game. But, hey, that stuff happens. I mean, you think in this day with all the technology it won't, but it still does.
Yeah, and I just got to double back again. The fact that a freshman quarterback for Silver Lake led a 73-yard, I think a 17-play, game-tying drive away from home against their biggest rival in the biggest rivalry game of the year without being able to see how much time was left on the game clock. That is one of the most impressive things, I have to say, Pistol, that I have ever seen.
Hey, that's a Kruger, and I've seen a bunch of them. And then throw in Dane Johnson, Dane's as good a receiver as there is, I would say, in the entire state, any class. So that gives them a great, great threat on offense.
Aside from the games we talked about, who in the city/county should feel the best about their week 1 performance on the gridiron?
Well, Topeka High got off to another good start, and that shows that they're continuing to make progress. Hayden, I think they expected to win, and they did. Those 2 immediately come to mind. Good to see Care Paravel get a big win. They're still getting used to the 11-man game, and for them to get such a big win over West Franklin is good. And then I think, you saw some other teams that knew they were going to have tough opening week battles and got them, and now they're looking forward to take steps in week 2.
Let's talk week 2 with Rick Peterson of TopSports.news on our local sports spotlight here on 580 Sports Talk. Our 580 Preps game of the week tomorrow night will be from Lester Weatherfield in Tecumseh. A city rivalry as Shawnee Heights meets Topeka West in United Kansas Conference play. Both Heights and West coming off of 0-1 starts to their season, and I'm fascinated to see Topeka West really young, but also really experienced. They played a bunch of freshmen last year and sophomores. Now those freshmen and sophomores are sophomores and juniors. I know they want to play with more physicality, certainly going to need it against a Shawnee Heights team that will be hoping to avoid an 0-2 start.
Yeah, and I really think that West is making progress, and I like what Trey Parker's doing there. I think they're continuing to move forward. It's just they have such a tough schedule. I mean, most games they go into as an underdog, and that's a tough road to hoe. So I think, and especially coming off a tough loss last week, Shawnee Heights is going to be, loaded for bear tomorrow night. But I do really, really, truly feel that West is going to get there. It's just, actually, they have a tough road with that schedule they face in the UKC.
Other games of some interest in the area this week or this Friday night, Washburn Rural and Blue Valley. That's going to be a really fascinating test for the Junior Blues.
Yeah, it will be. Blue Valley got them last year. They're very good. Will continue to be very good. Got a week 1 win, and I that's going to be a tough test. I mean, this will tell a lot about how far Washburn Rural can go this year if they can compete with a team like that.
Really good game, a little rivalry out on the boundary of the county and out to Pottawatomie County. Rossville and St. Mary's. It was a tight game last year between those two rivals, and should be another close one as Rossville, who started 0-3 last year, looks for a 2-0 start that, like we were talking about, Pistol, that would really stamp them as like major 1A contenders. Not that they aren't considered that around these parts already, but a 2-0 start with 2 real quality wins to start the season would serve even more notice.
Well, and St. Mary's got them last year, and it's going to be, and they're at St. Mary's, so it's going to be a tough test for them. Both those teams are just great programs, and that 3-week stretch for Rossville opening the season with these 2 games and then Nemaha Central. I mean, that's a really, a lot more about your team after you get through that. And that showed last year. They got through that, even though they're 0-3, and then caught fire. Yeah,
they won their next 8, made it all the way to sub-state there in Class 1A. But certainly winning would give you a lot more positive momentum in those games. They can find a way to win them. It will show some real growth for Derek Hamas's Bulldog squad. A couple of other games that are non-league affairs of some interest. Hayden's got another matchup with St. Michael the Archangel out of Missouri, a team they beat fairly handily last year. Team's got a new coach this year. Hayden trying to go for that 2-0 start. What will they look to improve upon from their week 1 win over Eudora?
Oh, just, more 4 quarters of football. They had a great first half last week, but Coach Arnold wasn't real pleased with their second half on offense anyway, and thought they, let some opportunities get away. So they'll be looking for a complete game like everybody is. And then I really think they just, Coach Arnold, all coaches, but Coach Arnold particularly always talks about the difference you should make between week 1 and week 2. So he'll be looking for that. And I think they win pretty decisively.
Seaman having to navigate a stretch of their schedule without one of their best players. Running back Caden McKinney suffered a broken collarbone in their week 1 loss to Piper, and certainly that sent the Vikings reeling a little bit when that injury was suffered to one of their best players and leaders. They'll try and regroup against a very good Shawnee Mission East program in week 2, and I would imagine with a week to kind of process and get guys ready for new roles, I would expect Jared Swafford's bunch to be more ready and more up for this matchup against the Lancers.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll be ready to go. They're going to have to play well. Shawnee Mission East is coming off a big win against a Sunflower League team, and I think Seaman's always going to be tough, though. They're always going to compete. That's one thing that Coach Swafford and Coach Nickel really emphasize. So. And being at home well, but they're really going to have to play well. They had a sophomore running back really step up last week, and they'll need another big game out of him.
A couple more questions for Rick Peterson of TopSports.news. This is the local sports spotlight. We turn the spotlight on Shawnee County High School athletics and the Washburn Ichabods every Thursday at this time here on 580 Sports Talk. Speaking of the Bods, they dropped their home opener, or home MIAA opener anyway, on Saturday to Northwest Missouri State. And 2 games in, it seems very clear this is a team that hasn't quite found its offensive rhythm yet. And that won't be an easy thing to do against an always tough Colorado School of Mines squad. That's who Washburn plays out in Golden, Colorado on Saturday afternoon. What have you heard from Coach Zach Watkins about what this team is going to need to do to get their offense purring?
Well, they really want to bounce back from last week. They had some, good play, particularly on defense in the first half, but nobody was happy with that performance. Nobody was happy with the way that game went. So they really want to come back. I do look for them to be much more competitive. This is a team they could have, should have beat last year when that team was coming off a national championship game appearance. So I think they'll give it. You're right, exactly right, though. They can't find they had a great passing performance in the first game. Northwest did a much better job against Justin Lewis and Washburn offense last week, and then they still just can't get the running game going. And they've had some injuries up front, and I know that's been a major priority this week.
Beyond the prep football, as we close here in the local sports spotlight, what other high school athletic events will we be keeping your eye on this week over at TopSports.news?
Well, there's a big golf tournament up at Village Greens today that Siemens hosting. That's very good. I'm going out to a volleyball quad that I'm really excited for. You got Shawnee Heights, Seaman, Silver Lake, right from the county, all very good teams. Silver Lake is currently ranked number 1 in 3A, and Sarah Johnson has never minded going up against 5A and 6A competition. So that'll be fun. There's a cross-country meet at Kansas Park on Saturday, another big cross-country meet in Olathe that some of our schools are going to. And like always, busy weekend.
I always try to take on that dogleg left on 18 at Village Greens and try to take it over the trees because I'm left-handed, but I can't hit a draw. I'm not good enough to draw my drive. And every single time, straight into the lumber. I mean, I have whacked it off the trees more times on 18. I never walk off that course feeling good about how I played the last hole. Hopefully, the young people, the young women playing that course today have some better luck. You can read all about this weekend's high school football action, Washburn University action, and much more at TopSports.news. Rick Peterson has it all covered, and he joins us every Thursday for the local sports spotlight. Pistol, always a pleasure. We'll talk to you next week.
Look forward to it.
That is Rick Peterson. We will take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. Come back and wrap up this 3 o'clock hour next. Wrapping up this 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. Thanks again to Rick Peterson, TopSports.news, for joining us. And one more reminder that this week, week 2 of the high school football season in the state of Kansas, our 580 Preps Game of the Week will feature the Shawnee Heights Thunderbirds hosting the Topeka West Chargers at Lester Wetter Field in Tecumseh. Myself, Dan Lucero, and Spencer Dupuis on the call. On our sister station, Country 106.9, we'll go live with pregame coverage at 6:45. Tomorrow, we are short on 580 Sports Talk. We are off once again at 5 o'clock for Royals baseball. But at 4:30 tomorrow, we will again bring you week 2 of the 580 Preps Coaches Club, our pregame content for high school football, my conversations throughout the week with all of the city's head football coaches. So you'll hear from the 6 city head coaches whose game we are not doing on Country 106.9. We'll bring that to you from 4:30 to 5 o'clock here tomorrow on 580 Sports Talk, so you can get yourself ready for your high school football weekend coming up. And, of course, we'll have the high school football scoreboard show from the Kansas Information Network starting at 10 p.m. or following Royals baseball, whichever comes second, here on 580 WIBW on Friday night. Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, 2 questions I have about Avery Johnson, or really 2 questions I have about K-State football's priorities vis-a-vis Avery Johnson. Plus, is the number 1 seed already at risk for the Kansas City Chiefs? And how might that impact Sunday against the Eagles? All that and more coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2 on this Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk. With you until 5:30 this evening on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and our Facebook page, WIBW News, where you will be able to watch next Wednesday, yours truly, I'm Dan Lucero, and Brendan Dworzinski arm wrestle. That was promised to our listeners when we got to 800 YouTube subscribers that I would arm wrestle Brendan. And we're going to do that on Wednesday. And what do you know? It's my arch nemesis in arm wrestling, Brendan Dworzinski, dropping by the program today. Hi, Brendan.
What's up? Good to be here. Yeah, I had to step in. It's promo cutting time for next week.
Indeed it is.
Yeah.
Keep your eyes peeled on the 5A Sports Talk YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you.
You get this fired up. I got to find myself a mask. Look like a luchador. Need to do my best Rey Mysterio.
La Parka.
Oh, hell yeah. All those dudes who were in the WCW Cruiserweight division back in the day, every one of them, awesome.
Mil Mascaras.
Where I saw former WWE star, this is past when you were watching, Kalisto. He's going to be performing in Kansas City, I believe, next month.
Okay.
He was a masked wrestler.
Like performing as a wrestler, or
yes.
like
Central States Wrestling.
Oh, like there's a like a promotion.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
I was like, I didn't know wrestlers did like solo stuff. Like, is he gonna?
I do believe
gonna do some flips.
I do believe a year or two ago, after finally retiring for good, The Undertaker did a one-man traveling show, which I'm totally serious too.
That rocks.
We have a question here from the text line. Will you be wearing singlets?
Nobody needs to see that.
I was actually going to wear wrestling tights. Like, I was going to walk out to the ring like Randy Orton and just have like underwear on, essentially. But
now,
I can put a shirt on if
do John Cena, because I know you got some jorts.
Oh, you know I got jorts. Oh, buddy.
I know you got some jorts.
In fact, I need to cut some new ones because my current ones, like my whole ass is hanging out pretty much at this point. Those things are old. Need to cut some new ones.
How is the weight training going? What I'm really asking is,
is my child growing at a healthy rate?
Yes. Is your child growing at a healthy rate? Yes. Your child's 9 months.
Yes, just turned 9 months.
Your daughter is 6 months younger than my son, who is 15 months and just turned 15 months. And it is 6 months to the day.
Yes.
So we're getting close to walking, are we not?
Getting there. We're almost at crawling at this point. In fact, we got to crying because she couldn't crawl yesterday. In fact, just trying to work on the leg. The arms are there. The leg coordination not quite there.
A little bit of a military crawl happening.
Yeah, but like she's long, she's heavy in a good way. I did notice the other day though, and just like I use my dominant arm and hand to hold her all the time. Like when I pick her up off the floor to go change her or put her to bed or whatever, I lift her up with both hands and then hold her in my right arm. So my right arm and shoulder and hand, very, very strong. The left, I do that for about 30 seconds and switch to the right arm. So we need a little work for round 2.
Yeah, see, that's why we're going both ways here. We're going to do a left-handed because I'm left-handed, and that's my dominant side. Brendan is right-handed. That's his dominant side. So we'll do that, and then we'll figure out something to do for the rubber match in case we split it down the middle. But that's coming up Wednesday on 580 Sports.
Maybe we'll box.
Maybe that'll be... I was thinking
bare knuckle boxing.
Just a physical fight. First man out the door wins. Like
clear the table.
Turn the talk studio into like a cage match. First one out the door wins.
That's a great idea. I'm sure the fine folks at Connoisseur Media would love for one of their new markets to be doing that.
Just throwing each other across that table. Anyhow, that's coming up on Wednesday's edition of 580 Sports Talk.
I'm going to do the Superfly Snuka, not maybe commit a crime, but to jump off of a high place during the cage match and jump onto my opponent.
Winner leaves the room, loser leaves town. That kind of match.
Yeah.
There we go. Still to come this hour on 580 Sports Talk. Well, what is wrong with you? Of course, we got 2 new stories competing on what is wrong with you. Trunk meth and a flare gun apparently are the stars of today's show.
Tragically, not the same story.
No, not the same. If that were the same story, it'd be a front runner. But no, 2 very different stories. Also, we're going to talk about the Chiefs. And Bill Barnwell, in his article on ESPN.com today, suggested that the Chiefs could probably forget about the 1 seed if they lose on Sunday. Is that an overreaction or not? We'll talk about whether or not it is and whether or not it could affect how the Chiefs approach Sunday's game against the Eagles. Again, that is a 3:25 kickoff on Sunday, the Eagles and the Chiefs. You'll be able to catch it on our sister station, the Big 94.5 Country. Also on the Big 94.5 Country on Friday night, K-State football. The Wildcats are taking on the Wildcats. Who are we? The Wildcats. Who are we going to be? The Wildcats. It's an 8 o'clock kick from Tucson, a non-conference game between two conference foes, just like last year. K-State at Arizona. Kansas State trying to rescue their flagging 2025 season before their bye next week. Again, 6 o'clock pregame on the K-State Sports Network from Learfield, 8 o'clock kick over on our sister station, the Big 94.5 Country.
Okay, this is good timing because tomorrow afternoon and evening, I will be driving myself and Trenton Craxner. We're going to hit the road on our way to Golden, Colorado for some Washburn football.
Are you guys making the trip all the way through, or are you going to stay halfway?
No, we're going all the way through.
All the way through.
All the way through. Get there because it's a noon local kick.
Oh, yeah.
On Saturday.
Yeah, you don't want to have to wake up in like Waukene at 6 a.m.
Right, exactly. We're staying actually just, I think, Arvada, technically.
Sure.
Which appears to just be Denver
Mm-hmm.
for all intents and purposes.
Much like Olathe is just Kansas City.
Pretty much,
same
right.
kind of deal. Yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to get out of here at some point tomorrow afternoon, drive straight through. So I was trying to time out. At what points of the trip will I be able to listen to you doing high school football, 580 Preps game of the week? When can we listen to the K-State? When can we flip back and forth? So this is good. I was hoping it wasn't going to be like 6 o'clock kick and I was going to miss most of the game. So we're feeling good.
Speaking of the Ichabods, we'll just go ahead and do it for the sake of synergy here. A 1 o'clock Central kick means a 12:30 Central pregame show over on our sister station, the home of the Ichabods, Country 106.9. Yourself and Trenton Craxner are on the call with Greg Akagi.
Yes, indeed. Should be a fun one. Last year, 3-point game. Mines was a top 5 team at that time last year, and Washburn got so close, came up just 3 points short, going out there for the first time in well over a decade at this point. So, no, fired up about this one. Bob Stitt, the legendary head coach of Colorado Mines, he is back at Mines after a couple stints in D1. Only 1-6 in his career against Washburn. All those wins at Mines, only beat Washburn once.
So that's coming up this weekend. We'll lay it out for you again, what you can hear and when on our family of stations here on Connoisseur Media, Topeka. And also we'll have a graphic for it like we did last week. We'll throw it up on our socials, 580 Sports Talk on X, 580 Sports Talk on Blue Sky, WIBW News on Facebook. And we'll throw it up on the stream tomorrow as well on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. One of those games is Kansas State. Boy, they need to win something fierce because if they come back from Tucson 1-3, there's no salvaging 2025. Whatever hopes that this team has, this program has of salvaging something from this disappointing start. The first time K-State has started 1-2 since 2009. And you don't like being in a scenario where you're referencing the late 2000s in Kansas State football. That's not a fun time to be remembering.
Are you saying you don't want to remember the Prince of Darkness?
Hey, don't forget your power towel. Bring it to every game.
The least surprising thing ever was that he would later get in trouble as the coach of another program.
Yes, no, not shocking even a little bit. But if K-State wins on Friday night, you can maybe see some way out of the darkness. You can see your way back into the light. You have a bye week. You have a winnable conference game against UCF after the bye, and you can right the ship. I don't know if you can do that if you come back 1-3 and you lose to an Arizona team that most people think was going to be a bottom of the table Big 12 team this season. Arizona's 2-0, but they haven't proven anything. They haven't played anybody. They played Hawaii and Weber State. That doesn't throw those out the window. This is more about K-State, to be frank, than it is about Arizona. And in the course of talking about the Wildcats, not just this week, but really, leading up to the season, in preparation for the season, all roads lead back to Avery Johnson. The expectation for Kansas State football was based upon the expectation that Avery Johnson was going to level up in 2025, and that if he played at a first-team all-conference, maybe even a dark horse Heisman Trophy candidate level. That could propel Kansas State to one of their best seasons, a chance to win a Big 12 championship, a chance to be a part of the college football playoff. The team stuff isn't happening yet, and the numbers look good for Avery Johnson, but there's been a lot of Avery Johnson dialogue, including some that we've had throughout the week here. And it brought me to two questions that are ostensibly about Avery Johnson, but are really about this program's priorities when it comes to Avery Johnson. I think it's instructive to start with what we know, the stuff that we know to be true. Avery Johnson is an extremely talented quarterback, and by everyone's account, a super young man. The next negative thing you hear about Avery Johnson as a person, as a teammate, is going to be the first. And that's to everybody who knows anybody around the program. He's a gifted runner. He's a good passer. He's a work in progress as a passer, but is a good passer with a good arm. We also know, this has been expressed explicitly by Chris Kleiman, that the Kansas State coaching staff does not want Avery Johnson to get hurt. They have cited a lack of experience in the quarterback room, which is valid, and a fear of where the season might go should Johnson get hurt and miss any extended time. Although, at this point, could it really get a whole lot worse than it's already been through 3 weeks? They could be 1-2 with Jacob Knuth or Blake Barnett or whoever at quarterback. They could easily be 1-2 with any of those guys. Here's what seems true as we watch the games. What feels true from the eye test and anecdotally speaking. Avery Johnson looks less confident in the pocket than he does on the move. He remains a more gifted runner of the ball than any healthy Wildcat. Only Dylan Edwards clears him, and K-State has not had Dylan Edwards for a single offensive down in 2025. And it seems like, again, this is just based on what I've watched. It seems like the idea that he has to stay healthy and protect himself for the sake of the team, for the sake of his own good, the offense's own good, has affected his play. The first example people will think of is that 4th and 1 against Iowa State. That quarterback sweep where he got banged down about a quarter of the yard short of the first down, and that essentially cost Kansas State the football game. But there was a play against Army in the second quarter. It was a 3rd down and 5, and it was another designed run for Avery Johnson. And he only gained 4 yards, and he got tackled by one player. And if you go back and watch that play, and maybe you remember watching the game and you remember watching it, and maybe you thought exactly what I thought, that looked like Avery Johnson shied away from the contact. That looked like Avery Johnson was okay getting only 4 yards and not getting the extra yard he needed to keep the drive alive. Now, the play came back on a penalty and ended up turning into 3rd down and 15, and K-State would score 2 plays later on the long ball to Jerron Tibbs. But it was obvious on that play in particular, Avery was protecting himself. And Avery was willing to sacrifice moving the sticks for the sake of his own health. And a football player playing not to get hurt, and anybody who's ever been around the game or played the game for any length of time will tell you this. A football player playing not to get hurt is a football player who's more likely to get hurt anyway. That's what it seems like is true. Not what we know, but what it seems like is true. So it leads me to these two questions. And again, these are ostensibly about Avery Johnson, but they're really about K-State's priorities. Is Avery Johnson's health more important than winning football games? That's my first question. And that's a question that reads differently if we were talking about an injury-prone Avery Johnson, a player coming off of a significant injury, trying to play through a significant injury with a significant injury history. None of those things apply to Avery Johnson. He did get dinged last season. He played through it. It affected him. Kansas State kept Avery Johnson from running the football for the better part of that time frame, really from the Colorado game where he originally got hurt up through the Cincinnati game. They really were careful about how often they ran Avery Johnson and the kind of hits that they exposed him to. But this is a new year, and we haven't heard anything about a lingering injury or a nagging injury that Avery Johnson has dealt with. And when watching him play, watching him move in the pocket, watching him on the occasions where he has run the ball, doesn't look like anything's affecting him. So it sure seems like, and Tim Fitzgerald put it this way, and I'm paraphrasing a bit here, but I think I've nailed it on the head, what Fitz was saying yesterday. K-State would rather lose than put Avery Johnson at risk of injury. And I cannot fathom that if that is the case, that has escaped the notice of the rest of the Kansas State locker room. Hold that thought. This is my second question. Is Avery Johnson's development as a passer more important than winning football games? 3 North Dakota State quarterbacks that were recruited or coached by Chris Kleiman made it to the National Football League. Carson Wentz, Easton Sticks hung around as a backup. Trey Lance is still in the league, though Lance and Kleiman only overlapped by 1 year. He never played a game, I don't believe, for Chris Kleiman, but he was recruited by Chris Kleiman. That's 3 quarterbacks from a FCS program that have had NFL careers that Chris Kleiman was a part of coaching. So far, we have seen 2 Kansas State quarterbacks recruited and or coached by Chris Kleiman that have been drafted into the NFL. Skylar Thompson has carved out a career as a backup. Will Howard will hope to do the same. That's a pretty good track record for a coach operating outside of what we would consider to be the quarterback factory programs. Like, never would have considered North Dakota State or K-State to be quarterback factories. None of those guys we just mentioned had the recruiting pedigree of an Avery Johnson. The best case scenario for Avery is an NFL career, and he can get there. He has the requisite athleticism and arm strength. And even if he's not a long-term starter, he can get to the league. That is the best case scenario for Avery Johnson's football future. And if this coaching staff, Chris Kleiman, I include Matt Wells in this, views the responsibility to Avery's development as a passer means more than the responsibility to win football games in the here and now, what would that look like? First of all, it would maybe look like trying to teach a dual threat quarterback to be more of a pocket passer. And that is kind of what we are seeing as Matt Wells has begun calling the plays this season, become more involved in calling the plays. We are seeing this coaching staff, it would appear, try and change Avery Johnson's spots and make him more of a pocket passer. And that looks like what you're trying to do with Avery Johnson is to get him NFL ready. Maybe by the end of his career in college, whether that's this year, next year, Avery's the kind of pocket passer that raises his professional ceiling. But at what cost to the on-field results for the Kansas State Wildcats? And not for nothing. If either of those questions has the cynical answer, or what feels like the cynical answer, that yes, it is more important to keep Avery Johnson healthy than it is to win football games. And yes, it is more important to get Avery Johnson to be the best Avery Johnson he can be than to get the Kansas State Wildcats to be the best football team that they can be. And I can come to those conclusions being possible just by watching the games. I wonder how that's playing in the K-State locker room. Because if you signal that there are things that are more important than winning and that losing isn't the end of the world, your team is going to act accordingly. And for anybody looking for an explanation as to how things have gotten here for this Kansas State football team, I think those are as good a Rosetta Stone as any to try to explain just what the hell has happened to the Wildcats through 3 games.
So I've got a lot of thoughts here, and I think I'm right there with you. I think you're barking up the right tree with a lot of these points. Number one, and this is probably the most important overall here, and I think this is K-State. If this is the actual scenario, I think they're missing the forest for the trees with this. You know what gets you to the NFL? Being a good football player. You know who a year ago at this time had first-round draft hype, who right now, and he's still young, college player, no team would touch with a 10-foot pole? Nico Iamaleava.
Yeah.
Now, there are other issues there. And I have no reason to believe Avery Johnson as a person or his family or any of that is anything like the Iamaleavas, who appear to be, frankly, awful to deal with, Nico included. But part of the whole transfer thing was also like, well, Tennessee's offense, it's terrible. And that's true. Like, no Tennessee offensive player is going to make it in the NFL running that offense. But like, oh, we're going to go to UCLA, going to run more pro-style stuff. You know what he has looked like through 2 games? A dude who's undersized, who is propped up by a gimmick offense. You're going to get to the league being a good player. There are quarterbacks who have made it to the NFL as not great passers. I can think of one who, different kind of athlete, so it's not apples to apples, at least not red to red, that your favorite team drafted this year.
Jalen Milroe.
Jalen Milroe is he's an unbelievable athlete. And I think he won the academic Heisman, if I'm not mistaken. Like, very, very bright kid. He's going to throw that ball really, really hard, and he does not know where it is going to go. But he was a really good college player. He's good at what they asked him to do. Again, accuracy, but That got him a third-round pick. Now, Avery is smaller. I think Avery already, though, a better passer without having to,
I would agree,
turn him into Drew Brees. I don't think you need to do that to get him a shot at the NFL. So that already right there, I think, is problematic. If your whole goal is because I guess the point is we got this elite recruit and we're going to make sure he gets drafted in a good spot.
We owe it to him to do right by him. You feel a responsibility to the player, the person. And look, I'm not diminishing that. You should, in some way, as a college coach and a college coaching staff, feel a responsibility to your players as people. That is not to diminish that responsibility or to knock that responsibility as not important. But is it more important than the job of going to win some football games?
And yes, Avery is and I'm not trying to take shots at him specifically. I have no problems with Avery Johnson.
I'm not
himself.
knocking Avery Johnson
No,
either.
I
hope people to understand that this is not a knock on Avery Johnson.
He is the most important player on the team without question, but he's also one of 105. You have to consider all of that. And I think a problem a lot of college coaching staffs deal with is, well, we're going to get guys ready for the NFL. Shoot, it's not even just football. It's basketball, too. You know who that is still a problem with, even though he changed jobs? John Calipari, who has pretty much admitted, coaching basketball and winning college games is secondary to getting guys drafted. Which, if that's your thing, fine. But that's not going to get you, your fan base, your program to where they want to go. And K-State is obviously a different situation than that, but it's a problem that I think a lot of college programs deal with. And again, you can get to the NFL. You can put your guy in a good professional position without trying to turn him into something that he's not, which dovetails with another point I wanted to make about the injury thing. They are running the wrong offense. He's not Colin Klein. He is not Jake Water. He's not Alex Delton. He's not those guys.
And as a runner, he's closer to Delton than Klein.
Right. But, this is not a guy that is built to run like this. And you have heard me say, especially in recent years, teams need to follow their identity. Wisconsin trying to become an air raid team is so unfathomably stupid. Keep recruiting 300-pound farm boys. That's how you were winning Big Ten titles or playing for titles. You're trying to be an air raid team with Phil Longo calling your offense. He's gone now. Now Jeff Grimes? What the hell is that? But no, you're the big beef eaters. Be that. I get that K-State stylistically, they're going to run. They're going to be physical. They're going to be the smart team. They should be the smart team on the field. That doesn't mean you need to run the same offense that you've run for years and years and years and years. You don't have to run Snyder 2.0 offense. You don't have to run the stuff even that Skyler was doing or that Will didn't run a lot, although he's decent at it. You don't have to do those exact same things, which has made me actually shift away over the last couple of days from, I think this is a Matt Wells problem, to it might be a Chris Kleiman problem, because Wells is different to this. And I've got my issues with Matt Wells in and of itself, but why are we doing the same thing when it doesn't have to be like this? The odds of him getting hurt, he might get hurt anyway. He's a small guy. That happens to small players. But the odds of him getting hurt, probably a little bit different if your goal is read option, get outside, get to the boundary, which I know you've been talking a lot about over the last couple of weeks, compared to QB power. You know who had one injury in his college career and missed one game? Heisman Trophy winner Lamar Jackson. Now, he's had some weird stuff in the NFL, but the first couple years of his career, he certainly didn't. In college, again, he missed one game when he was a full-time starter. That dude ran all the time.
Yeah.
And have you ever seen Lamar? He's not exactly built like his teammate Derrick Henry. He's slight, too. He's got toothpicks for legs. This name is a firebrand, but I'm talking football specifically here. Another guy who never missed a college start. Never. Who was a runner, who was also, by the way, in college, a worse thrower than Avery Johnson. Colin Kaepernick. Those Nevada teams,
out of the pistol, yeah.
That was kind of the nascent stages of the pistol becoming a big deal in college football. Colin Kaepernick was not a very good. He completed over 59% of his passes 1 year out of a 4-year career in college. He was a second-round pick. He ran like crazy. They did all that pistol read option stuff. He was a second-round pick. You don't have to do the same thing you've always done. Avery can be a great outside runner. You can find success. He can be an NFL guy, and you can be putting your team in the best position to win. It's so confusing to me.
And I just, if we are noticing it, I guarantee you it hasn't gone unnoticed in that locker room.
Oh, for sure.
And I have to believe that if there's a lack of life, a lack of verve, a lack of desire, a lack of urgency from this Kansas State team, it's because of a signal from the coaching staff that, hey, it's not that important we win these games. Hey, we'd like to win them. We want to win. We're going to play hard, but it's not the end of the world if we don't win this game. And honestly, that tone was set all the way back in Big 12 Media Days when Chris Kleiman told me on Radio Row, we're not going to let Farmageddon, they're not going to let that first game in Ireland define our season. Well, it has. Hate to tell you, it has. And it's defined Iowa State season, but it's defined it in a good way. So the urgency that this team is lacking, maybe that's why they can't get it back, because they have been conditioned, because they feel like there are things that are more important to this coaching staff than winning football games. And among those things being keep one guy in particular healthy, keep one guy in particular's powder dry. And again, that is not a knock on Avery Johnson. I would like to see him run a little harder. I would like to, he doesn't have to be Cole Helms and run it 41 times in a game and run it between the tackles 40 times, but a little extra effort on some of those runs. You got a tackler in space, get that extra yard, fall forward. Duck the left shoulder. You don't want to hurt your right shoulder, duck the left one. Just a little bit more desire from your starting quarterback is going to get you, I think, a little further. But I think if you're looking for an explanation as to why things have gone wrong for K-State, that's as plausible a one to me as I've been able to come up with. We'll take a break. We come back with what is wrong with you, and then we're going to talk about the Chiefs and maybe already saying goodbye to the 1 seed if they start 0-2. That's next on 580 Sports Talk. So what is wrong with you on 580 Sports Talk? We got two new stories competing today, trying to take down our current champs, the Fragrant Felons. 3 guys that stole about $2,000 worth of perfume from a store in Goleta, California. Cops knew they had the right car when they pulled it over. It reeked of perfume and cologne.
Open and shut case.
It's like, so I when I did the story, you weren't in on the show that day, Brendan, but like, it's from the Camino Real marketplace in Goleta. My grandparents, my mom's parents, when I was a kid, we go out there to Santa Barbara and Goleta and vacation every summer. And their townhome was across the street from where this happened.
That's awesome.
So like I can picture it in my head. I know exactly where they were. I know where they tried to get on the 101. Like I know exactly where all this happened. I wonder if they passed by the field where my dad and I used to play wiffle ball, my younger brother, when I was a kid going on vacation. Like, this is very close to home for me. But we'll try and take it down today with 2 new stories. Brendan, why don't you go first?
All right, we're going to California again for my story. Fresno County, though, probably a little less scenic than Santa Barbara County. A woman was arrested, though, in Fresno County after the vehicle she was driving was found with approximately $100,000 worth of crystal meth.
All right.
That's
a lot of meth.
Yeah. Around 12 p.m., Coalinga, California police say they stopped a 2013 blue Toyota Corolla on northbound I-5 in unincorporated Fresno County for an equipment violation. I'm going to guess taillight out, probably something like that. The officer reported several factors, and tradecraft led him to believe the driver was engaged in criminal activity. That includes the driver providing written consent to search the vehicle and then finding 2 large duffel bags containing 90 bags of meth in the trunk. I'm sorry, a white crystal-like substance suspected to be crystal meth. This was turned over to the Fresno High Impact Investigations team. As a result, the woman was booked on charges of possession of meth for sale and transportation of meth for sale. We've got a couple pictures here. This is a lot of meth. 90 bags of meth.
That is a lot.
I was reading something the other day about how in various states, like, intent to sell laws are flimsy, dubious, to say the best. Like, well, maybe I just want to get really high. Like, I'm not trying to sell, but if you have, like, Kansas is a state like that. If you have over a certain amount, no matter what, if you have paraphernalia or not, it counts as intent to sell. This person was absolutely intending to sell.
Yes.
You don't carry that for yourself.
No, that's not a personal collection.
Nope.
That's not a personal meth stash.
My own personal collection.
Gotta have your vehicle in working order and do 1 mile an hour over the speed limit and put it in cruise control.
Yeah.
Cool. I listen to enough rap music to know how to traffic drugs.
Clip that.
On that note, my What Is Wrong With Your Story today takes us to Long Island, Suffolk County.
On Long Island or in Long Island?
Suffolk County, on Long Island.
I also would say on.
2 elderly neighbors that have a dispute, and one of them shot the other in the face with a flare gun.
Oh!
67-year-old Richard Catrone's face was still bloodied and bandaged when he spoke to NBC New York. Thankfully, he was not more seriously hurt. The attack was captured on a home security vehicle. It shows Catrone walking his dog on a leash outside his apartment when 76-year-old Kathleen Schumann comes out of her apartment a few doors down. Seconds later, she fires the flare gun, hitting him in the face. The flare can be seen bouncing off his cheek as he holds his face in pain. My next inclination was to get the gun, recalled Catrone, and I knocked it out of her hand, and she went to get it, and I wanted to protect my dog. I wanted to protect myself. Kathleen showed no emotion. She claimed I was the devil that tried to murder her. She said, "I'm sorry I missed. I'm sorry I missed." Schumann was arrested and charged with assault. Neighbors of the 2 residents say the 2 have a long-standing feud stemming from their pets. Catrone has a dog, Schumann a house cat. Neighbor Mary Neitzel, neighbor in everybody's business, says he started harassing her because he said her cat was always upsetting his dog and she would sit outside with it. She actually moved out to live with her sister for a few months. She just moved back a week ago and he just keeps bothering her. Catrone, in his defense, says, "I just asked her, can you keep the cat inside?" And that started the whole situation. Schumann pled not guilty in court. She has to stay away from Catrone as part of her release.
All right, side what is wrong with you here. Mary, let these people handle their business alone, all right?
Right.
Nosy neighbor Mary, jeez.
Mary, the block's gossip.
Yeah, seriously.
Probably couldn't wait to talk to NBC New York.
I mean, accusing this guy of being the devil makes me a little concerned about her well-being upstairs, but people are defensive of their animals. I get it.
No, that's true.
I completely understand.
Just very funny. There's a thing for two old people to get into a beef about. Like,
why did she have a flare gun?
Great question.
Why? Like, I'm not endorsing shooting a regular gun into someone's face either, but that would make a little more sense than a flare gun. Who just has one?
Yeah, I don't know.
In their house.
Yeah, I don't own a flare gun. I've never had a need for a flare gun. I know there was a point in time when those were probably a little bit more prevalent than they are. Like, you got to be like in certain situations, I think, to feel like, yes, a flare gun is a worthwhile purchase. But yeah, just have one chilling in your house. Like, I'm going to shoot up a flare, like, out my chimney? Like I see you keep it in your car, that makes a little more sense. You get stranded, off the road, send up a flare, sure. Your house? Yeah, it's strange. I'm going to give that one the nod today.
Yeah, me too.
But I don't think it beats the fragrant felons. I just love the thought of the cops walking up to the door of that car and being like, well, case absolutely closed.
Yeah, I mean, how many times do you hear a story about someone getting pulled over for driving under the influence of marijuana, and the cops can smell it wafting out of the car? I love the idea of Chanel No. 5 being wafted out of the car.
It's just this overwhelming
That's awesome.
scent.
Great story.
The fragrant felons advance to tomorrow on What Is Wrong With You. When we come back, do the Chiefs need to win on Sunday to already feel like they have any chance of the AFC 1 seed? We'll talk about it next. .447 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan and Brendan with you. It's a well-worn stat that people pull out at the start of every NFL season. It's really hard to start 0-2 and make the playoffs. And it's true. It's true. It's been more prevalent in recent years. Saw the Ravens do it a couple years ago. The Bengals did it in 2022, the year after they went to the Super Bowl. They started 0-2 and made the playoffs. The year they lost to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game rematch. Texans did it 2023. It's become more prevalent, I think, because the NFL has front-loaded the schedules for league contenders in a way that they didn't used to on purpose, because now those games are marquee primetime games. They want to get, big games on the schedule early. And I think you see, if you're a good team, you can recover from an 0-2 start and make the playoffs. But also, if you're a good team, you might have two really hard games, your first two games, as the Kansas City Chiefs do with the Chargers, a game already in the loss column, and now this home game against the Eagles on Sunday. Bill Barnwell of ESPN.com pointed out today that only two teams have started 0-2 and ever gotten the number one seed in their respective conferences. The 1993 Cowboys, who are the best example of this, they started 0-2 because Emmitt Smith was holding out. Emmitt Smith stopped holding out, and I don't think they lost another game all year. They won the Super Bowl. The 2003 Eagles are the only other team to ever start 0-2 and earn the one seed. And they had ended up starting their season against the defending Super Bowl champions and the eventual Super Bowl champions of that year. So tough start to their season, but they were still a good team. 0-2 didn't define them. 0-2 would not define the Chiefs were that to be their fate. But Patrick Mahomes has never started a season 0-2, so there's that as well. But the broader point, the broader question here is the AFC 1 seed out of the Chiefs' grasp if they lose on Sunday? And does that change how the Chiefs approach this game? Do they approach it with even more urgency, knowing that, hey, look, if we want to make sure we have the bye and home field advantage, we better make sure we don't start 0-2? Does that play into the Chiefs' mindset at all going into Sunday?
I think it might be there a little bit, but I don't think they're out of it by any means, because who are the other top contenders to get that? Buffalo and Baltimore, correct?
Right.
And it could be some, maybe Houston bounces back and they're awesome.
Maybe the Chargers.
Could be any of these teams. I'm going to take those two, though. Baltimore and Buffalo, excuse me. Baltimore still has to play the Chiefs coming up in week 4. They've got to play the Rams, the Texans in there as well. Minnesota might be difficult. That's midway through the season. 2 against Cincinnati. They got to play 2 against Pittsburgh. They play Green Bay. That's not a pushover schedule. And I don't know if you've noticed this. The current generation of Baltimore Ravens loves to blow it in big games.
Yes, they do.
That's a lot of big games on that schedule, although they are a good regular season team. The Bills, really good. Josh Allen, unbelievable. He is amazing. I'm terrified for that defense. And not like, oh no, they're going to get us. No, you might be able to tear them to shreds. If Baltimore hadn't completely whizzed down its leg, they should have put up 50 plus.
Yes.
That defense is very worrisome and is not a 1 seed kind of defense.
You could easily make the argument, Matt Verderam, our NFL insider, kind of did when we talked to him on Monday, that there was as much to be concerned about coming out of that Baltimore-Buffalo game for both teams as there was to be excited about. Oh yeah, we know those teams have dudes on offense, but could their defenses stop a nosebleed if asked? And
really, I think the biggest reason why that makes sense to me is because the problems are the same problems.
Yeah.
Buffalo's not strong. Well, Ed Oliver was awesome, but otherwise they were not strong enough at the point of attack. Baltimore just turned their brains off with 10 minutes to go in the game.
They've been doing that for so long that it's kind of who they are now.
Right, which is why, much as I like John Harbaugh, we've got to have some questions about John Harbaugh. But that's why I would say that it's not time to write this off. Yes, the Chiefs have a very difficult first half of the schedule. They have, on paper, a pretty easy back half of the schedule. I still think the Chiefs will win a majority of their games in this first half of the slate. It would be difficult, without question, but I wouldn't write it off at this point. But maybe that's what the team needs, is a little motivation in that regard.
Yeah, I think if you saw a little bit more urgency from them, certainly more than we saw in week 1, it would behoove the Chiefs. I think you're going to get that anyway, just because of how flat they were in their season opener. But this is a Chiefs team that is very aware of the stakes of the bye week and home field advantage and what good that can do you, particularly for a veteran team that has played so much football. To get an extra week off in January is no small thing. This is also a group that knows they've gone to Buffalo and Baltimore and won in the same postseason on their way to winning a Lombardi. Like, they're not scared of the prospect of, oh no, if we don't get the 1 seed, we're boned in half. Like, we've got a real big problem. So I don't think it's going to be top of mind for the Chiefs. I think you're going to see an increased urgency and an increased energy just based on how week 1 went. And I think that, coupled with the possibility of a week 2 letdown from the Eagles coming off a close rivalry win at home in their own opener, and I think those are probably the biggest intangible reasons you would be optimistic about a Chiefs bounce back victory on Sunday.
I think the Chiefs can get it done this weekend for what it's worth. Like, I don't think
the Eagles are the boogeyman. I don't
either. And we sort of forget because they were so dominant in the playoffs, and they did win a lot of games in the regular season. They kind of won like the Chiefs won. Like, this is why the Jalen Hurts discourse drives me absolutely insane. Well, he has to be a top 5 quarterback. You won a Super Bowl, bro. He's been to 2. Yeah, he was also like the 16th best quarterback in the league until the last 2 games of the year. Mm-hmm. And they were big games, but also, like, he wasn't even all that great in the Super Bowl. All of his teammates were.
Yeah.
I think the Chiefs can get it done. I understand week 1 we freak out. It was an island game, so that's like a major memory for everyone about the season, but I'm not especially worried about the long term at this. Now, I'm worried about certain things for the Chiefs that if they don't fix them, like their nickelback, that I will be concerned about long term. But in terms of the 1 seed or Super Bowl odds or anything, I'm not sweating it.
We'll do keys to the game and all that on tomorrow's show, but we'll take a break, come back, and wrap up the 4 o'clock hour 580 Sports Talk today after this. Brendan, we have you here for a couple more minutes. Your thoughts on what transpired in the border war on Saturday?
I mean, the final result didn't shock me, and I don't think, like, I'm not embarrassed if I'm KU. I feel bad that I let it slip away, but Missouri was the better team probably for the majority of the game, just in terms of literal time in the game. KU not quite as beefy up front. That was significant, but I don't come away from that game like mad. It would have been nice to beat Missouri, but when I put together my path to 7, 8, 9 wins in the preseason, like, I figured this was a loss. It's on the road, hostile environment. a fun game. Maybe not always a well-played game, but I thought JD was fine. Emmanuel Henderson had a mistake, but I thought he was all right. Pickett didn't play a whole lot. I'm not sweating it. Like, I shared my thoughts about the game being played, period, in the show this past Friday, but I don't know. I come away from it not feeling any different about the future for this team, honestly.
Almost feel slightly better about how the front seven held up. That was Michael Swain's argument on Tuesday when we had him on.
And yes, the final score was literally an 11-point difference. That was not an 11-point game, though.
No.
I thought it was a close, competitive game on the road against a tough team, rivalry environment. I've got no... Again, would have liked to have won, but I don't feel any worse about KU.
More with Brendan tomorrow. Mitch Holthus in about 15 minutes. We got one more half hour of 580 Sports Talk, and it's coming up next. Let's get it. Final half hour of this Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk on this Thursday on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW FM 104.9. We're online at 580WIBW.com. We are in living color on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and our Facebook page, WIBW News. Dan Lucero here with you until the bottom of the hour, 5:30, at which point we'll hand the baton to the Royals Baseball Network. Royals and Guardians wrapping up their 4-game series in Cleveland tonight, 6:15, the scheduled first pitch. Gavin Williams on the mound for the Guardians as they look for the series win. Royals, after a 4-3 win last night, trying to salvage a sweep and keep their faint playoff hopes alive. They will send Stephen Kolek to the bump. Again, 5:30 pregame right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. So with only half an hour left, we got to dash right on through it. You can text the show 785-272-9429. You can also hop into the YouTube chat as well on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. We are going to do a very swift headline segment, and then we're going to welcome in the voice of the Chiefs. Mitch Holthus will join us for our weekly conversation. Thanks to our friends at Hy-Vee and Zurich Credit Union. Mitch Holthus will join us here in just about a handful of minutes. So with that in mind, let us get right into the headlines and right into the participation report for Chiefs-Eagles coming up Sunday at Arrowhead Stadium. And the big news today came from the Chiefs practice field and the Chiefs participation report. Xavier Worthy upgraded to a limited participant after he did not practice on Wednesday. Worthy went through some drills today with a brace and a wrap on his right shoulder that was dislocated in the loss to the Chargers back on Friday in Brazil, and is trending towards the possibility that he could suit up in the Super Bowl rematch on Sunday. Of course, you remember the big numbers Worthy put up in that Super Bowl rematch, which were nice. They were purely cosmetic and did not mean a thing as to the final result of the game, but they were historic in their own way. So, some nice memories for Xavier Worthy against that Eagle secondary. He is a limited participant. On Thursday, he was the only player with a limited designation for their participation in practice. Jalen Royals was a DNP for a second straight day with that knee injury, looking more and more like he will miss a second straight game. Everybody else practiced in full, including Trey Smith and Drew Tranquill, both of whom were limited on Wednesday. Smith with a knee and an illness, and Tranquill with a knee. They were both full participants today, so seemingly no worries there. Full participation for the second straight day for Nick Bolton with a biceps injury, Hollywood Brown and his tender ankle, Shamari Connor and a wrist injury, Ashton Gelati and an elbow injury, Omar Norman Lott with his ankle injury, and Juwan Taylor with knee and ankle injuries, all full participants. Speaking of Juwan Taylor, somebody got yelled at because he got called out on the carpet by Matt Nagy in his remarks today. We have time to play any coordinator audio today. Both Nagy and Spags spoke to the media. Nagy very pointed in his criticism of Juwan Taylor's 4-penalty performance on Friday in the way that makes you think maybe that leash is a little shorter than we might have previously thought. Maybe if those problems persist, we will see Jalen Moore at right tackle for the Chiefs. For the Eagles, they had the same 3 players who did not practice on Wednesday, also DNPs on Thursday. Tight end Dallas Goedert dealing with a knee injury, backup quarterback Tanner McKee and his injured thumb, and backup running back Will Shipley with an oblique injury. Tackle Cameron Williams was added to the injury list with a shoulder issue. He was a limited participant today, which usually means that something cropped up at practice and he had to leave practice early. When you see no designation and then a limited designation the next day, that's typically what happened there. Landon Dickerson was back to full participation, the outstanding guard for the Eagles with a back injury, was a full participant today, as was outside linebacker Jalix Hunt, who has a hip, I think that's Jalix Hunt, my apologies, dealing with a hip injury. He was a full participant, so a bit of a shorter injury list for the Eagles than the Chiefs. But that's the participation report for today. Of course, tomorrow, the final participation report of the week, and we'll have injury designations and all of that. Text from the 785 asked if Christian Fulton practiced. Yes, he did. No injury for Fulton either. And interesting a note from Jesse Newell at The Athletic today. doesn't seem like Fulton's injury is limiting him because his average sprint speed, as measured by the NFL, the data, the Amazon Web Services, all that fun stuff, his average speed on Friday was actually much faster than his average speed last season. So it doesn't seem like it's an injury maybe so much holding him back as it is just him trying to get acclimated, because he lost most of camp. And now he's trying to get acclimated to a Steve Spagnuolo defense, which is not always the easiest defense to get acclimated to. So that might be what's keeping Christian Fulton off the field more so than anything else. Another text from 785, based on what we were talking about at the end of the second hour. Text from 785 already writing off the number 1 seed for the Chiefs. I think that's a little too hasty. I think that it's easy to overreact again to what we saw in the island games, so to speak, the marquee games from the opening week. But like, if you watched Buffalo and Baltimore and you said, oh, one of those teams is for sure winning 13, 14 games, one of them probably will, but they got some real problems they got to address, just like the Chiefs do. The only difference is one of those teams, Buffalo, Baltimore, had to win because they were playing each other. That's the only difference. So I'm not as ready to write off the number 1 seed. I understand, maybe you're doing the thing where you prepare yourself for disappointment in advance. I understand that level of fan brain. I get it. But I am not there yet saying that, oh, yes, the Chiefs, there's no way they get to the level where they win 12, 13 games to get the 1 seed. Because usually it's about 13. Last year it was 15. That 13 wins, can the Chiefs go 13-3 from here? Yeah, they can. And I'll think that even if they lose on Sunday, that they can still go, can they go 13-2? Yes. These are the Chiefs. They win a lot. They've done a lot of winning with this group. No amount of winning they would do in a stretch of time would surprise me. So that's where I'm at on that, but certainly your mileage may vary. We'll take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. I told you those were going to be really fast headlines because we got Mitch Holthus coming up. The voice of the Kansas City Chiefs is going to join us here in a little bit. An interesting clip you'll hear in the course of our conversation with Mitch from Juju Smith-Schuster, a player who has seen his importance increase early in the season with the suspension to Rashee Rice and now this injury to Xavier Worthy. So you'll hear that clip from Juju. You'll get Mitch's perspective on the trip to Brazil, the loss in Brazil, and what the Chiefs need to do to win against Philly on Sunday. That's coming up here on 580 Sports Talk. 517 on 580 Sports Talk, and we are out to Mitch Holthus, voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, who we are hoping to have join us here before we break away at 5:30 for Royals baseball. Royals and Guardians game 4 of their series. And I believe we have Mitch Holthus on the line right now here on 580 Sports Talk, the voice of the Chiefs. Mitch, is that you?
It is.
All
Sure,
right.
is.
Wonderful. Mitch Holthus' appearances on 580 Sports Talk are brought to us by Hy-Vee, your official tailgate headquarters for Kansas City Chiefs football, and by Azure Credit Union. Contact Crystal Rippey, Kirsten McCall, or Naseem Khan about the Credit Union Advantage for your next home loan. Well, certainly a more memorable experience than game for Chiefs Kingdom, seeing their team play in Sao Paulo, Brazil on Friday night. Disappointing way to open the 2025 campaign with a 27-21 loss. But Mitch, real quick, if you could tell us what the experience of Brazil was like for the Chiefs traveling party, and another unique opportunity to see the Chiefs play abroad.
If 10 is the greatest experience I've ever had, and 1 is, oh my gosh, brutal, I got to be honest, about a 2.25. It was very different than Germany and very different than London or Mexico City. We had no fault of our administrative team, who has to work very hard on that event. We, for whatever reason, were on the ground 2.5 hours on the plane before we took off for a 10.5-hour flight, lose 2 hours. Sao Paulo is the 4th largest city in the world. It tells Los Angeles, hold my beer. So you got a long commute across one of the largest cities in the world. We walked into the practice facility at 5:30 a.m. Central Time and got into the hotel at 1:30 a.m. Brazilian time. So do the math. It was like a 17 or 18-hour day.
Yeesh.
Kind of throws off that one day we're there. And then what Brazil's got to figure out, and the NFL's got to figure out, is the home team gets a hotel very close to Arena Corinthians. And let's just, to an analogy, Arena Corinthians would be about where Perry LeCompton is. And we would have stayed in Manhattan or Junction City and had stop-and-go traffic all that way from Junction City to Perry LeCompton.
Jeez.
And that's game day. That's game day. Now, it sounds like an excuse. Nobody cares, but you asked. It was not conducive to winning a game of what the team had to go through. Very similar to K-State's experience in Ireland. To play that big a game, to play a division opponent, much like K-State had a big-time Big 12 opponent, a rival, and to do it under those circumstances, if I'm scheduling, I got to think twice. But anyway, it happened. We're home. Now we got to get it fixed and get it right.
Well, memorable certainly sounds like an apt description, but maybe not for good reasons.
Very good adjective. Memorable.
Yeah, so now the Chiefs are back home. They're stateside, and they're back home at Arrowhead Stadium for Sunday in the Super Bowl rematch against the Philadelphia Eagles. And they may have to go into Sunday without Xavier Worthy, though he did return to practice on a limited basis today. And that would indicate that there's a chance that he could suit up on Sunday. We already, of course, know that Rashee Rice won't play. So the receiver room has been limited. There's also the injury to Jalen Royals. And I wanted to talk about that because you were able to talk about to Juju Smith-Schuster this weekend. It's an interesting analogy that you make about the door hinge. Could you explain that to us?
Mm-hmm. Well, Coach's first year, 2013, we had one of his former Eagles wide receivers named Jason Avant. I don't know if you remember Jason. And when I watched him in the realm of Coach's offense, I thought, this is really an interesting guy and what he does, in the fact that many times Coach will set up triangles or geometric figures in route running, and that door hinge literally becomes kind of the fulcrum of the attack. Now, they may not be the intended receiver. They're not always setting rubs. But the reason the Chiefs got the big play to Hollywood Brown at the end of the game was Juju Smith-Schuster's route. He ran it so well that he was able to be the door hinge and fly the door open, influencing the safety to allow that big play to Hollywood Brown. And so I asked Juju, he's better to define this, and I'll let Juju explain what it means to be the door hinge receiver in this offense.
it helps our team to be successful and win, I'm down to do it. But and those aggressive catches, man, like those are the ones you want. I think the easy ones that come and go, you got to have those. But at the end of the day, when you get those tough ones where it's 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, and you need to make a play, that's where you go to. And then you talk about the door hinge. The door hinge is something I take pride in, right? Someone who knows man versus zone and how to pick and how to, reroute for leverage is huge. And I've learned that a lot here being under this offense.
Setting a legal pick, making your routes, knowing you're the route that may not be the receiver, but you're going to allow other guys to get open. And I was just thinking back at Super Bowl 57. I think he ran the route where he got held by Bradbury for the automatic first down that led to the game-winning field goal. Okay, there you go. Doesn't show up in the stat sheet as a target, a catch, or any yards. But it led to the game-winning field goal. That's the door hinge receiver. And Andy Reid's offense has to have it. And Juju Smith-Schuster right now, if we're going to win the game Sunday, Juju Smith-Schuster, think about his game last Friday, 5 catches, 55 yards, all hard catches, including the one from Pat that went into the elevator door. So that's what fans need to know. It's not sexy fantasy. It's reality winning. And right now, Juju Smith-Schuster is the door hinge of this offense.
Mitch Holthus is our guest, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, joining us, a courtesy of our friends at Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union on 580 Sports Talk. Aside from that discussion about getting more from the receiving core that is healthy and being able to maybe prepare a little better than you're able to prepare for losing your top target 3 snaps into a game, which was the case on Friday. What else do the Chiefs have to do offensively to find the early rhythm that eluded them against the Chargers? Once they found rhythm against the Chargers, they scored on their last 5 drives. How do they start Sunday in that kind of rhythm, especially against a tough Eagle defense?
Well, let's just talk. It's my thesis of this week is who dictates terms. Baltimore and Philadelphia, the 2 teams in the league that are most like, and K-State fans now know what it's like to play Army. When Army's on schedule, they're really hard to beat. I don't care if it's Army, right? Same thing when you play Air Force or Navy. When they're on schedule, they're hard to beat because you can't get them off the field. Philadelphia loves to dictate terms to their opponent. Give you an example. They play 4-down football. They'll play 3rd and short football. They had 3rd and 4 or less against the Cowboys 5 times. They converted all 5. So I'm going to answer your question by the Chiefs have to turn the cannon on their opponent. They have to stay on the field. They were 5 of 14 on 3rd down in Brazil, 0 for their first 7. That cannot happen against Philadelphia. Somehow you have got to make the Eagles uncomfortable. Where K-State lost the game against Army, they had a chance to go up 17-0. That changes a little bit the mentality of Army. They're going to keep going at you, but they're going to run out of time to try to get 3 touchdowns. So the case here with Philadelphia, they got some explosiveness in the passing game. But if you make Philly uncomfortable, second half of Super Bowl 57, prime example, if you make them uncomfortable and you do it with your offense, then you'll have a chance to win this game. The Chiefs offense has the first responsibility here. You can't be 1 of 3 in the red zone. You can't have 2 3-and-outs. All this happened in the Charger game. You can't be 5 of 14 on 3rd down. Can't do any of that. You've got to be pristine. You've got to be explosive, and you've got to get 7. And then put the pressure on Philadelphia instead of vice versa.
What's the primary fix defensively that the Chiefs are going to focus on to try and slow down what can be a very potent Eagles offense with all of the skill position talent that they have at their disposal?
Yeah, and Jalen Hurts becomes even more of a focal point here. Everybody wants to talk about Saquon Barkley, but you realize in Saquon Barkley's first 9 carries of Super Bowl 59, he had 16 yards. This is a dude that had 2,500 yards counting the playoffs, an all-time NFL record. Okay, so now what? It's Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has grown so much in the quarterback run game, I think he has eclipsed Lamar Jackson. And he can make more throws than Lamar Jackson. Now, Jalen Hurts, here's one of your nuggets of the night. He had two rushing touchdowns on scrambles against the Cowboys. Last year, he had 14 rushing touchdowns. He's had 54 in 4 years. That's an NFL record for a quarterback. But last year, he had 14 rushing touchdowns. All of the 14 were not scrambles. None of the 14 were scrambles. Quarterback powers, quarterback draws, tush pushes. That were his 14 touchdowns. Now, with the ability to scramble, here's my answer to you. You got to mitigate Saquon Barkley. You have no chance. 2, you've got to learn in your pass rush to spy Jalen Hurts. You have got to play him like you play Lamar Jackson now. 3, get off the field on third down. The game against the Chargers, torture. 3rd and 4, 6. 3rd and 8, 9. 3rd and 14, 19. 3rd and 15, 14, which led to a 4th and 1 sneak by Herbert for a first down. The Chiefs, now this carries over to last year. They're getting favorable third downs and winning the first 2 boxes that they have to check I just gave you. It's the third box that has been a problem. Dude's running free in the middle of the field. So you've got to check all those boxes. First down, protect Barkley. Spy Jalen Hurts. And third down, you have got to clamp down to get off the field, especially when it's more than 6 yards to go for the first down.
Mitch Holthus' appearances on 580 Sports Talk are brought to us by Hy-Vee, your official tailgate headquarters for Kansas City Chiefs football, and by Azure Credit Union, where you can contact Crystal Rippey, Kirsten McCall, or Naseem Khan about the credit union advantage for your next home loan. Hate to rush you off the air, Mitch. We got Royals baseball bearing down on us, so thank you so much for your time.
One more quick nugget.
Give it to me.
Will be the first time. This game will be the first time a quarterback faces another quarterback and they've beaten each other in a Super Bowl. It has never happened. Same with the head coach. They've never been a game where a quarterback beat another quarterback in a Super Bowl, vice versa, and now they faced again. Never happened.
That is an amazing stat. Mitch, have a great call Sunday. We'll talk next week.
Thanks, bro.
That is Mitch Holthus. That is going to do it for 580 Sports Talk on this wonderful Thursday afternoon. Thanks so much for being with us. We're back with you tomorrow until 5 o'clock. Royals baseball is coming up next. For Brendan Dworzinski, I am Dan Lucero, and this is 580 Sports Talk. Good night.